Call Amy Adams.
Mr Speaker, I just want to take a very brief call in support of the Electoral Administration Amendment Bill number 2. I think, sir, listening to debate on this evening, the scope of the bill and what it achieves has been fairly well canvassed, and I don't intend to waste this House's time going over that again. I just want to take a moment, sir, to commend the Minister for his ongoing programme of work to reform and modernise our electoral laws. This is one of a number of steps that this government has taken. I also want to acknowledge and commend Chester Borrows as the chair of the Justice and Electoral Committee that considered the legislation. That committee works exceedingly well under his chairmanship and has led, I think, to significant improvements to this bill and the other pieces of legislation that have come before it. Sir, this bill has, it appears, the support of the House, and so I just want to add my voice to that support and commend it warmly to this House. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Yes, Mr Speaker, I rise and, as everyone this evening in fact, to speak in support of this bill, because indeed it does have support from all parties, and that's certainly not a common thing in this House with some of the dreadful legislation we see imposed on us, be it by a majority, by the National Government. But we're here by the National Act Māori government, as my friends reminded me. But we're here to talk about the Electoral Administration Amendment Bill number 2. And as Charles Chauvel said, that the bill implements both stage 2 of a 2-stage reform of electoral administration, establishing the new Electoral Commission, and it also makes a number of other changes to the Electoral Act. And in fact, this came out of a report from the Select Committee, or from the inquiry, which is held after every election, Mr Speaker, in 2008. But indeed, I know that when I was on the Justice and Electoral Committee, this was an issue that was raised a number of times, both by submitters and also from officials making comment about how much more effective it would be to have a reform and to have a new commission, or a commission that encompassed the whole process of the general election process. Now, we do, as I said, we, along with every other party in the House, support this bill, and we do appreciate that there was a consultative process about this, and congratulate Simon Powell, who of course will be not with us in the next term, not will I, but life goes on. But this is actually a pretty common sense piece of legislation, and certainly a piece of legislation that is far preferable to me than other pieces such as the 90 Days Sack at Will Act and the dreadful changes we've seen to law and order and education, etc., etc. This new Electoral Commission will be able to be a more effective regulator of elections, and would hope that the new agency will provide better access to electoral services and encourage a much more integrated, efficient and strategic approach to electoral administration, as this is what this government and indeed every other party in this House would want to see, and indeed every person who casts a ballot in the general election. I want to pause actually to acknowledge the work that does get done, and I think that irrespective of the outcome of the election, which for many people was quite devastating, that we do pride ourselves on a process that by and large goes very, very smoothly. And if you compare that with other countries, other so-called democracies throughout the world, I think that's something, I can see Maurice Williamson nodding furiously, that's something that that we all celebrate, to be part of a democracy, and an inclusive democracy, and also a very effective democracy. Now, the first stage of this reform took place already. The new Electoral Commission was established on the 1st of October. and taking over the old Electoral Commission and the Chief Electoral Office. The second stage, which is what this bill brings forward, will be completed on the 1st of July 2012, and that will bring the functions together of the Chief Registrar of Electors within the new Electoral Commission. So whilst it needs to be streamlined, it takes nothing away from the fact that it's been very well served by the agencies, as I said before, but this is going to be a process, and I would say a process that has been, whilst it was highlighted very strongly in the last inquiry, that I think has been raised in at least two inquiries into the general election prior to that. In fact, Mr Chair, I think when you were on the Justice and Electoral Select Committee quite some time ago, it may have even been raised at that stage, but that might be something you might want to muse on just as you're sitting there and thinking. But getting back, if we talk perhaps just very briefly about the Select Committee report, that, as I said before, the date was moved forward from the 1st of October to 1st of July. That also a new clause is entered to allow the Chief Registrar of Electors to seek the consent of declared Maori electors and to provide the electors' email address and contact phone numbers. The use of electronic copies instead of paper copies is provided for in a new section, getting more up to date with the world that we live in today, the New Zealand, the world we live in today. I know Maurice Williamson again is very much an IT. He's very keen, passionate. I think it would be his first love actually, and other amendments, but those were just drafting amendments that came up. So I'm thinking about this. There's so much to talk about on this, but perhaps if I go and look at just a little teensy bit about the background, that the formerly. I know that Carmel Cepoloni is going to go in quite a bit of depth into the background, but I'll just briefly touch on that previously it was three separate bodies, and that was the Chief Electoral Officer, the Electoral Commission, and the Chief Registrar of Electors. But I will leave that for Carmel Cepoloni to go into more detail on, because she's a more detailed person than me. But I do think that this is, as so many have said, this is going to be more effective. It's going to be something that, and what we do want to see, I think from time to time we have had a couple of little instances around elections where what's happened, perhaps ballot papers haven't got there in time to some of the polling booths. I think there was a situation where some went missing one occasion, but by and large these things are very, very, very infrequent. So this will only enhance the service that is provided, and I think that certainly going with the online. The online and the moving towards more technology is going to really enhance the situation. The report from the department provides that the full online enrolment option, which the government, which is apparently very much on the agenda, would have a satisfactory trial, will certainly improve online enrolment. And there's also provision for a more efficient way of checking that electors' immigration status legally allows them to be on the roll. And I think that currently the Department of Labour's information can only be used to check the immigration status of those already on the roll, and it can't be used to check when an application is being processed, as is provided for now under this legislation. That can be checked at that time as well. That's very good. That's actually a very good the check and balance and just keeping on top of people's immigration process, and be good. It's good to see something good happening with immigration, given the Prime Minister's dreadful statements lately. And also, the new system will be more efficient, and that's what I spoke about before. It does the streamlining, and I know that other people are waiting to take a call on this. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Thank you. And I, along with everyone in this House, I commend the bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.